Michael von Ayrton wants to find out for us what happened to his first car, the Tomaso. The search for clues is not going to be easy. There are only 2 photos left, blurry night shots. You can hardly make anything out. At the time, Michael wanted to test whether the flash on his camera worked. Mine had the chassis number 2009 and the whole series started with 2000. Well, mine was the 9th ever built and I haven't come across one yet. Michael is pretty sure that the Tomaso still exists somewhere. You don't throw something like that away. And there is actually a hot lead. Someone on the internet sent me the vehicle registration document with the chassis number 2009.
That was definitely my car. This car was also running in Germany for a while. So I think that they will find out something. Will he succeed? We'll see. At the Schwweiger's house, in Wagsfürst, in the Offenburg district, Bettina and her husband Jürgen use every free minute to work on cars. There's plenty to do. Bettina Schwweiger has had more than 20 Granadas, but it all started with this one. It's actually been there for 20 years full, but it'll be back on the street at some point. And that's the car that I actually fell in love with. As a small child, I always loved playing with cars. As a child, I don't know. Other people played with dolls. I always had Matchbox cars. And then you can hardly wait until you're 18. And then I saw the Granada. I thought it was great. It was wide. It just looked great. It was like a common thread running through it. Once you've had a Granada, you can't really get away from it. Bettina is currently on her way to visit one of these fellow believers. We're accompanying her. Our destination, Granada City. You won't find it on the map. That's what insiders call an industrial area in Castroproxel. Because here in the Ruhr area, Germany's most famous Granada mechanic works in his rather strange shop. Bettina comes here every few weeks. She would never entrust her darlings to anyone other than the workshop manager Uwe Hochstein. 2 crazy people who found each other. Uwe Hochstein has had his Granada stall for 40 years and is always busy. Oil is being raffled off. Should you leave it? Then you'll have to look again. The customers aren't running out, he says. They come to him in the Ruhr area from all over Europe because they know that Uwe knows what he's doing. Bettina says Uwe is a pretty extreme case, but also one that reminded him strongly of his own Granada past. Yes, at 18 you can't afford a car like that, right? And yes, that's how I got the Granada. Uwe kept a few Granadas that he had grown fond of over the years. Back then, used Granadas weren't worth much. Some were worth a crate of beer. This one looks good too. The car has only been driven 500 kilometers from MOT to MOT, but it has always been parked in a park under the trees in Gelsenkirchen. The owner bought it in 1988. This vehicle, it's like an 85. And he hasn't washed it once since then. I'm going to get it ready for myself. The interior is completely ruined. I'm going to make a good interior. I've got a leather one here. Does that mean that it's going to be completely new inside? It should be inside and also in the engine compartment and trunk, and here in the door frame. Yes, it will look brand new. And on the outside it will have this patina. The owner's sons had stored this Granada in a container after their father died in 1979. Throwing it away or selling it was out of the question. Then the car was forgotten until Uwe heard about the touching story. And then the car came to light. It had exactly 28,000 kilometers on the clock when I got it out of there. Of course, it had a lot of damage from standing. Sure, when we bought it, it had a light beige interior in top condition, but that musty smell. I couldn't get rid of that, so now it has black interior. So, how long was it in the container? From 1979 to 2015. Oh my God. Yes, that's more than 30 years. Capri owners come by from time to time. Usually people who need something. For example, for the engine. Ford often used identical parts for its models. Tim Villeneber is here with his daughter Jana. They are looking for a carburetor for their Capri, which is not easy to get. We spoke on the phone. Are there any carburetors? I have the trunk, Johan, open it. But Uwe has some more. Here is the good piece. Wait a minute. There are quite a few parts in the film. I have one here that has already been overhauled. You can see that it has already been in the sea. The Capri threesome does not belong to Father Tim, but to daughter Jana. She learned to drive in the Capri, and it was clear that the Capri would be her first car. Nothing else comes close to freedom. Even as a child, I always loved going to Capri meetings and always enjoyed listening, even when Dad told stories from the past. And then I said, hey, I want to experience things with my friends in this exact car, and that makes it even more special. If you can share the hobby with your daughter, that's great. And of course I'm always on the lookout for new Capris, and I have to justify that to my wife somehow. And well, we managed it so that we could buy another Capri for Jana. Of course I also like to tinker around with it and drive around in the car, but that's fine. So it's my daughter's Capri. We're in Betzdorf in northern Rhineland-Palatinate. Tim wants to show us his Capri. It's this one, Generation 1. A 1,500 cubic centimeters car in the rare color mouse gray, with a fascinating history that really touches the heart. But we'll hear more about that later. Tim is an absolute Capri freak. The car is almost a religion for him. That's how it was in the past, and that's how it is today. The shape of the KP1, you have to say, it's really sexy, right? The curves and the shapes, and if it still has a bit of shine, then you'll really want to touch it. So just looking at it is no longer enough. You have to really touch it and feel the shape and the figure. Well, I have to say, Capri, you have to look up, like at a pretty woman, for example. The passion started when Tim worked at a Ford dealer after his apprenticeship. There he saw the Capri for the first time and was totally fascinated. It had to be his first car. He started looking and found one at a Capri collector in Cologne. And then I saw the car standing there. At the time it was beige and didn't look that great, but a tune started in my head, like wow. I knew straight away that I was going to buy the car, no matter how much it cost or whether I could negotiate it down. I was going to take it with me. That was 30 years ago, and Tim loves his Capri like it was the first day. The dream almost came to nothing. Tim says he couldn't afford the car at all. After his apprenticeship, he doesn't have enough money for the Capri from Cologne. Should he bury the matter? Next to Hall's, Tim sees another chance. I think I have the Capri. I mean, normally it's a secret what you paid for it, but I paid 2,900 marks for it. He still has the sales contract from 1991, but happiness rarely lasts. When Tim gets into financial difficulties at the beginning of the 2000s, he needs every cent and has to part with his Capri. It almost breaks his heart. It's like a terrible misfortune in the family. Someone who gets seriously ill or a death in the family. I don't know how to describe it, but it was something like that, really. Well, it was hard for me, wasn't it? The Capri dream died? Not at all. When Tim got over the terrible crisis, he wanted his Capri back, come what may. Full of hope, he turns to the previous buyer. He immediately said, yes, do you want to buy it again? But I would have to add a few euros. In the meantime, he had it inspected and replaced various worn parts. It didn't matter. And after that, I immediately decided that when I got the car back, I would never do it again, no matter what happened. I've already said that I would rather cut off my arm than sell the car, and that's probably the case, right? It's like a second birth. And yet the unimaginable happens. In August 2019, Tim is in danger of losing his Capri once again. On the way back from a meeting, the car catches fire on the highway. Jana, sitting in the back seat, is the first to notice the fire. That also came out of nowhere. Of course I thought, what is that? Is that normal? And you could smell it. And then I said, why is smoke coming out of there, Dad? So I pulled over to the right immediately. It was clear to me that something was burning, right? Yes. And before I had finished thinking that thought, I of course slammed on the brakes, and there was no braking effect anymore. Oh God, the brakes have failed. I thought that was it. Now it's burning down, and I was so desperate, shocked. I don't know exactly, but I thought, now you're seeing your own car burning up right in front of your eyes. As if it were a stroke of fate. Tim had put a fire extinguisher in his car just weeks before. Thanks to him, we managed to put out the fire at the last second. This fateful back and forth has brought Tim and his Capri even closer together. A separation, he says, must never and will never happen again. No matter what happens or no matter what happens to me, the car will have to remain in the family forever. I think our writer will soon that it will definitely not be sold later. It's a piece of me, isn't it, the car? We're going back to Upper Bavaria to the noble von Ayrton family. Michael, the one with the strange taste in cars, has apparently found a hot lead to his very first car, the Tomaso, that exotic car with the dubious reputation. Michael makes it exciting, first taking us to see friends who also have a big heart for their first cars, just like him. His father was a master in the business of the flamboyant Munich fashion Tsar Rudolf Mooshammer. The Cullis still have their studio in Rosenheim today. Celebrities and members of the high nobility come and go there. Michael is also a regular customer. The open VW Beetle from 1965 has been in the family for more than 50 years. It has been lovingly looked after all these years, otherwise it wouldn't look so great. This Audi is a very special treasure, a very rare V8, probably the only one still in running order. His grandfather had bought it from a customer in Wolfsburg in 1994, but rarely used it. The few trips he had taken had left a deep impression on Laurent, and I was sitting in the back as a 3-year-old. Since then, it's been my dream car. Was it your dream car? Exactly. You really wanted it when you were 3, but I should say, but in the years that followed. She drove it until I was about 8 or 9, and then I knew that one day I would like to have the car. And luckily it was kept for me. And then what do you mean, kept? What does that mean? Well, it was no longer needed because a new car had been bought. Yes. And then it was basically put in the garage and stored for how many years? 15 years. Laurent is particularly proud of one thing. This poster of his first car, signed by racing legend Walter Rohr. It's almost like a knighthood. I had a poster developed, and it was nice. I asked him if I could send him a few things. What was there? A bottle of beer and a marker. And I sent him the ashtray as well. The ashtray? Yes, that was the only thing I could remove, because I'm not a mechanic. I removed it. He was kind enough to sign it and send it back to me. Exactly, but he kept the marker. Oh well, what does it matter? The Audi will stay in the family, that much is certain, despite all the sacrifices made in buying it. I've already had a few offers, but to be honest, I wasn't really up for that. But they were right, so outrageous offers, and I wouldn't give them up. No. I put so much love and money into it 2 years ago. Yes, it's mine now. I'm not giving it away anymore. Michael von Ayrton certainly wouldn't do that either. You learn from your mistakes. And did the search for your first car finally lead to success? Now we finally want to know. It looks like it was scrapped in Sweden a few years ago. I researched as much as I could in all the clubs and forums. So the answer is pretty clear. The car was scrapped in Sweden. They wouldn't do that today. What a shame, isn't it? What a pity. There are very few Lancians. One less. Have a good trip, okay? Thank you. Unfortunately, no happy ending. But as the saying goes, every journey comes to an end. But the memories are unpoised as long as you keep them in your heart. Really cool, isn't it?
But wait a minute. You didn't smash the bell and press the like button. Blasphemy.
Thank you for your attention and have a nice day.